name is Tristan. I'm 17 and I've been free running for quite a few years now. As long as I've trained, it's always been my #1 passion. I now teach at a local youth club and I hope to continue training as part of my career. I made this documentary to raise awareness about free running, mainly because free runners tend to be looked down upon, especially by the older generation. They tend to be looked upon more as yobs messing about on a roof rather than, young people practicing their discipline. I also hope that this documentary is going to help free runners to realise the point of view of the people that own the buildings that they're on, and also of the police. I interviewed the manager of a local community centre where some damage has been done a little while ago because somebody climbed up onto the roof and jumped up and down on a skylight until it fell through. And I was interested to hear what Bev thought of free running and how she dealt with people going on the roof.
All of the years that we've been here, we've always had issues about young people running across the roof. Our worst case, sort of was when a young person went through the skylight in the children's area. It was a 12-foot drop, and he was very, very lucky that he didn't do any damage to himself. And I don't have a problem with people being there. Yeah. It's just the safety issue of running up and down and the disturbance to the people. So the anti-climb paint was the last resort, really.
I also interviewed Anita Owen, who's from Brampton Community Police, because I know they've been involved with having to deal with people going on the roof and having to deal with free runners, and I was interested to hear her take on the sport and what she thought of it and how she would deal with reports of free runners.
What I remember, because I don't think it's a sport that's really taken over in Brampton, but I do remember last summer and possibly the summer before, there were reports of free runners around Brampton, mainly at the community centre. Like I say, I think the damage that's probably been caused to the roofs at the community centre, it's likely that it wasn't free runners, because I think there is a lot of effort by kids that are bored to just climb school roofs and climb the roof on the community centre just because they can. Nothing else to do. I'd like to think that if free runners were being honest and open about what they do, that if they cause damage, then they'd be the first to come and say, oh, whilst I was doing this, a bit of damage was caused, let me know how much it is and I'll offer to pay some of it. That would help. We usually get descriptions of who we're looking for, what they're wearing, etc. And I must admit, the reports that we have had, we've never caught up with any free runners.
I used to be in an office just down the corridor here, which means I have a camera, and I used to have it on the camera when they were around, whatever, just to see what they were doing. I think the first time I ever saw them, it scared me witless, because I didn't quite know what it was, but I made a point of going out and speaking to them, and they told me and explained to me, what they were trying to do. And all I asked them to do was to be careful. It was a discipline like, any other skateboarding, gymnastics and whatever, so I had no issue with them being here because they were being careful in their own way. Like any sport, like any discipline, it has to start somewhere with somebody doing something. I don't think so. It's a bit like kids' play parks, and whatever. You put a swing and a slide in, and you're only going to get the very young people in, so to do to have something like that, it would have to be very carefully planned. There would have to be enough, and I use the word danger lightly, but there's got to be enough stuff there to enable, people to build up their discipline.
I think looking at the other parks that have been made, the BMX tracks that have been made, skateboard parks as well in Carlisle, they are well used. They're certainly well used when they first opened. I think if there was a way of making something for free running, either indoors or outdoors, I think it would be a good effort.
I think that the point that Bev raised, that free runners might get a bit bored in a free running park, if we did have one, is a good point. But I also think that it would be a really good thing if free runners had an extra space to train where they weren't going to get moved on, they weren't going to get accused of vandalism, and they're not going to be looked down upon either. People are actually going to want to be able to see what we can do.
When you see it on the TV, it's fascinating. It's fantastic to watch when it's done properly. I think if it's done properly and it's done in a controlled way to a point, so as not to, you know, disturb what free running is all about, I don't see why it can't be adopted.
I hope that people watching this now have a better understanding of what free running is about, and I also hope that free runners that are watching this have seen the other people's point of view, seen the police officer's point of view. There needs to be a mutual level of respect if free running is going to be adopted as a sport.
Drop.